why. I'm just saying I know a hater when I see one. I know a hater when I see one because I've dated one. And it's very uncomfortable to date a guy who is insecure about where he is in life. All right, we are back. So, this is my second time recording this video. The microphone works. And I don't want to be like I didn't expect it to work, but I am pleasantly surprised at the quality we have here today. The mic off of the Tik Tok shop, it's the wireless lavalier microphone. Mine works. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, if you're returning, you're all welcome. Happy to see you tonight, today, whatever. It's currently 2:32 a.m. My sleep pattern has been ruined all year. So I had plans to record this hours ago. Didn't happen. Whatever. I am under the weather, so bear with me. All I want in the new year is a better sleep schedule. Because this being up to 2, 3, 4 in the morning is trash. Because I'm going to still try to record a video after this, which would be much shorter anyway. But besides the point. Well, we're going to try to keep this video concise and to the point because I don't feel well. It's late. Let's get into this whole Jonathan Owens, Simone Biles, the Pivot podcast mess. I'm sure you are all aware, if you clicked on this video, about everything that's been going on with that. And if you're not, let me debrief you. Simone Biles married a young man named Jonathan Owens. He is I don't know his exact position, but I think he plays for the defense for the Green Bay Packers. So he goes to this podcast, and there's a snippet from it that went viral where he says that he's the catch. Eek. And that essentially he wasn't checking for Simone. That's essentially what the viral clip was. If you haven't seen it, I went ahead and watched the whole podcast because I was curious to know, like, if he would redeem himself. Far too often, especially in like these times with social media and the rapidness and just like how quickly things can travel and be misconstrued, I wanted to watch the full interview to see if he would redeem himself. The snippet that went viral did not make him look good at all. He didn't look like a villain, but he didn't look good. I'm gonna read my take when I originally saw it, because at first I was just like, I really only paid attention to the part where he said he did not know who Simone Biles was. That is the part that I focused on in my response. So yeah, I'll debrief you to that because my opinion has 100% changed. Just so we're clear, okay? I said, now I have seen a couple scenarios where the guy is trying to humble or take weird digs at their girl. For example, DDG, Kiki's baby daddy, I think his name is like Darius, and the one bigger black dude and the light-skinned woman who did those cringy videos where essentially he said he didn't want his wife over and over again. He's a musician. I cannot think of his name. I think his name is, someone actually drop it in the comments and I will tell you what his name is. And this was not giving that. It seems extremely unlikely that some people are not disconnected from social media, the news, etc. This to me wasn't getting sassy boost. It seemed pretty genuine. I don't know what league this guy is in, but he has to know of the two, she is the bigger name. When I left this comment, this was 6 days ago, I think this is probably the first day that it dropped. So I didn't even know who the man was. I knew Simone Biles had gotten married. I had seen that, and I was like, oh, girl. And it went viral when y'all were bullying her for having her edges out, sweated out in Houston, Texas. Have you ever been to Texas? Because I visited for the first time this year. It was hot as fuck. Okay, ain't no edges. Texas heat is so unforgiving. Like, the second you step outside, it's like on you. I'm from North Carolina, so we do have humidity here. And I thought our humidity was bad. Texas got us beat, babes. Like, to think that her edges would be laid in Texas is actually disrespectful. It shows that you're not from there. You can't be. And if you are from Texas and you thought her edges was gonna be laid and you say her edges gonna be laid, you are a villain. Anywho, I saw where she got married. I didn't look into it. I thought it was great. I love to see black love, or at least to see it being portrayed-ish. Fast forward to now, I know more about him because he went on this podcast and he did not show up for his woman. That is what I will say. I have watched a couple different takes on the situation. I have a couple favorites on here on YouTube that spoke about it, and I could definitely see where they were coming from. There were some accusations of him being the A word. I won't say it because I know YouTube can be a little funky. Saying that she was in a significantly unhealthy relationship, right? And I didn't think that was fair off of one snippet, which is why I went and watched the podcast. I will not co-sign those ideologies, but I will say, as someone who has dated a guy who was intimidated by the things that I have accomplished and who was insecure about where he was in life, this was very on brand. Like, I definitely got that from Mr. Owens. That's what we're gonna call him, because I feel like calling him Mr. Biles, even though it's meant to be like a dig at how quote unquote irrelevant he is, it really just brings more emphasis back to Simone, and I feel like she's gotten enough heat for the situation. Like, it's sometimes it feels like people are more mad at her for choosing him than mad at him for being who he is and saying the things that he's saying. I don't remember where I left off, but essentially, we meet Simone Biles. We meet Jonathan Owens for the first time, really, as people who are not engaged in NFL content on this podcast. And even people who are engaged in NFL content probably didn't maybe know much about him until this podcast, or were not familiar with him, because as of right now, he is not a big name. I don't watch football, so I don't know his stats. I'm not watching the highlights. I don't care about football, respectfully. But I know enough about football to know that he is not a popular name. Opening up, we find out about a little bit about his background. He's from St. Louis, went to school in KC, specifically Missouri Western, which is a very small school. The pop isn't even touching 7K. And if you have not been to college, or you can't really visualize that, 7,000 people at a university is a very small cohort. His school was ranging, I think, in the like 5,400 people. That's about how many people went to the school that I graduated from, my alma mater. School had even less people. I went to a very small school. Um, in comparison, when you think of schools like, I mean, I'm going to use North Carolina schools because that's where I'm from, but schools like Chapel Hill, ECU, you're looking at 28,000 people, 31,000 people attending one university. So let's put into perspective that he was going to a small college where he was a good player. I think that is significant. Well, he describes himself as awkward on the field, and he felt like he didn't really get his footing until he was a senior in college. A lot of his backstory revolves around him being rejected, feeling overlooked, feeling like he had the talent and no one was paying attention, feeling like he was a good player. Once he actually gets into the NFL realm, he realizes he was going to a small ass school in Kansas City, or Missouri. I don't know how that works. I think there's a place called Kansas City, Missouri. My dad used to live out there for a minute, so I'm a little familiar with KC, but not super familiar. So he was attending a small college out there, goes to the NFL, where he is keeping up with the people around him, but he's not being noticed. He's undrafted for quite some time. A couple different teams pick him up and let him go. He got let go by the Colts, he got let go by the Arizona Cardinals, and allegedly three other teams that I did not look into, that they did not really mention on the podcast itself. It was not until he got an interception by some player who I would assume is important, like, or relevant enough in the NFL realm for people to be like, oh, he intercepted this player. That's when he got his moment. I think he was playing for the Texans. He could have been playing for the Green Bay Packers. I just remember he did play for the Houston Texans. Now he plays for the Green Bay Packers. And he's been in the NFL for like 6 years now. That is the gist of what he's saying in the interview without detailing the entire interview. He talks about cleaning rooms for the Kansas City Chiefs because they would practice at his college, and they weren't being paid to stay on campus, like it wasn't paid for. So he found a loophole to be on campus for free, to see these players play, do their thing. He would clean the rooms. So he sounds like he comes from humble beginnings. He had a lot of praise for his mom. I don't really know the dynamic to that capacity because he gives her a lot of praise in the interview, but he doesn't talk too much about home life and like what that looks like. He doesn't mention the fact that he has a stepdad until like close to the end of the podcast. His stepdad ends up passing because someone took his life, but you don't hear about the stepdad until the very end of the podcast. So I feel like he wasn't a significant factor because he just gives the utmost praise to his mother. His mother's the main focus. I don't know at what point stepdad came into the picture, but this is what happens to his stepfather when he is, I think, a senior in college, I think. He seems to have a lot of praise for other NFL players. He has no issue big upping the people that inspired him or mentored him, that kind of thing. So that's the gist of the backstory. That's enough of that. He was good in college, but he went to a small college. So, like, I don't want to undermine the fact that he was talented, but when you go to a small college, I don't even know if that school is D1, and that apparently matters. Like, the rejection, people looking over him, being cut from the Arizona Cardinals and having to watch his homeboys leave practice while he's on a practice field by himself with his plastic water bottle, and then he gets kicked off of the field by a soccer team. Like, it's a very vivid details. That rejection stuck with him for sure. And yeah, that's the most you really get about his backstory, or the most significant things about his backstory that I feel like correlate with why he addressed Simone the way he did. And in this interview, they're going back and forth between talking about Simone and talking about his relationship with Simone and football. Let's talk about the moments where Simone is mentioned. It doesn't take long for them to get into the conversation about Simone Biles, which is the very small 3-minute clip that went viral. It's about 13 minutes into the interview. And he asked him, like, listen, the football talk is cute. That's what Channing is like. The football talk is cute. However, I want to get to the nitty gritty. How did you bag Simone Biles? He he goes, it's really, how did she bag me? And he continues to tell the story about how organic story, that's what he calls it. He paints this vivid picture of Simone chasing him. They matched on this dating app called Raya, which is for people who are in, I would assume, higher up status, like celebrities, athletes, musicians, whatever. I ain't been on the app because I don't qualify, but that's where they met. They met on a dating app meant for celebrities, and he was claiming that he didn't know who she was and that he didn't really pay attention to gymnastics, like he knew nothing. He knew nothing of gymnastics. And he thought like her reaching out to him, like that he assumed that she was like a fake profile or something, even though he talks about how it's this rigorous, process to get through, you feel me, to get accepted to the website, because you have to prove who you are, you have to verify you're saying who you are. So I don't even know why he said that. He's like, yeah, I thought it was fake because we matched. And then I went and took a shower and I had some likes and I still waited. And then when I came back to my phone, she had messaged me. And then, and then, essentially what he was saying is if she hadn't pursued him in the manner that she did, he would not they probably wouldn't be together. Does he say that? No, but he does this a couple times throughout the interview where I feel like he catches himself right before he says something incriminating. He goes, if she hadn't have messaged me, my mind would have went somewhere else. That is what he said. You could just say you wouldn't have paid her any mind. You could have said that. He was making it clear if she hadn't reached out to me, we wouldn't have been together. Did he say that? No. But as someone who is able to critically think, I can read between the lines. That is what you meant, bro. You just didn't want to say it because you know that would have made you look horrible. And you would have embarrassed her even more than she probably already is. That is when the guy Ryan comes in and is like, yes, Simone's the lucky one. People really had issue with the questions that the interviewers were asking and what they were saying. But I took it as them prying at him to like clean up what you're saying, bro. I'ma say this, that's far left field, and I'ma give you a chance to redeem yourself because when the guy was like, basically, you were not interested in her, because that is what you can interpret from what he is saying. Literally. That is exactly what anyone would interpret from what this man is saying. I wouldn't say all that. Then what would you say? That's when he came in with the, I would have just, my head would have went somewhere else. Because he was really big up in himself and making it seem like she was thirsty. Like, yeah, she drove 45 minutes from the suburbs to come see me. She messaged me first. People try to play Simone like she didn't at least advocate for herself because she definitely intervened and was like, we matched. That is what happened. We matched. I thought you were cute. Maybe I did like some pictures. I messaged you first. I know what I want. And that's, but girl, you cannot be cutting off like that. Viewers were prying at him and trying to give him an opportunity to clean up what the freak he was saying because he just wasn't representing her well and he didn't make himself look interested in the woman that he literally chose to get down on one knee for. You're not representing her well or your love. You're actually making y'all look not you're not making yourself look good. You're not like making y'all look good as a union. That was my take on when Ryan asked him. So basically, what you're telling me is that you were interested in her. Well, I say that men are the catch. Men are the catch. Are they? Because you're not giving catch right now. You're giving throw. Anyway, that was just one incident where they talk about Simone. There's another incident where Ryan mentions how, jokingly, like basically how people will sometimes take more interest in the wives and the girlfriends than the actual players. He was mentioning a game, I guess, where Casey was playing the Packers and they were showing Taylor and Simone more than they were showing Travis and Jonathan. And he just kind of zooms by it and he's like, haha, well, I'm just glad I won my match. Like, I don't pay attention to none of that. He goes on to talk about how interviewers will ask him if he cares if they're at the game. And right before he says, I don't care, he just goes, I tell him I don't. I just be joking with him, messing with him, telling him like it don't really matter. Who says it doesn't matter if their girl is at the game or not? It mattered if your girl was at the game if you was in high school. So why would it matter if your wife is at the game or not? And Ryan is like, well, that's your wife. But what he said after, I was like, so are you defending her or are you on his side? I can't really tell. I think it was Fred Clark who asked him how Simone helped him essentially start his journey with mental health because she's very big in the mental health space. Most he really says positively is that she helped open his mind. That moment is probably the most credit she got the entire interview. He never acknowledged how great of an athlete she was. He never acknowledged the fact that she was the top of her league. There's a point in the interview where Channing Crowder is like, he is a great safety, but he will never be as good as a safety as she is a gymnast. You have these men on this podcast clowning you. And he asked him, like, do you think that's true? And he just put his hands up, like, sir, even if you think you are an amazing athlete, the market for the NFL, I would assume, is much larger than the market for the Olympic gymnastics. That's very niche. It is going to be very, very hard for you to top your wife, who is the top in her league. You can give her credit in that moment. You can say she is an amazing gymnast. You can say her athleticism has inspired me to be a better athlete. You could have said anything, but all you said was, Simone did make the comment. She made this comment before. It was either before or after. I don't know. After Channing Crowder had made the comment about him not being, he's never going to be who Simone Biles is in NFL. She's like, yeah, I tell him like in a few years, people won't recognize him as Simone Biles' husband. They'll call me Jonathan Owen's wife. She's such a sweet girl. She's a Pisces, y'all. Whatever feelings you have about the situation, let it go because the girl is gone. The girl is gone. The girl is gone. The girl is gone. She's not coming back until she's ready, okay? And right now, she likes where she's at. So let it go. Anywho, that's all you really need to know about the interview. He got rejected a bunch of times, got cut a bunch of times, always felt like he was being overlooked. And just thinking he was a really good player in that I just don't know how as an athlete you get to that conclusion like I'm just being overlooked. Maybe you're just not the one. He does eventually make it to the NFL though, and that is an amazing accolade. Like I don't think that should be overlooked because most people don't make it to the NFL. So congratulations to him for doing that. But put some respect on your wife. It took him a lot to give her any kind of credit. And the little bit of credit he did give her was that she helped him open his mind and he'll put it in a book when he write a book. And that she's a good cook. That his girl can throw down my baby. He said, my baby can throw down. I think he like her. I think he just might be a little bit intimidated by who she is because he's not at that magnitude. He's a Cancer Leo cusp. If you know anything about Leos, they need the notoriety, baby. They need the notoriety. Which is why he's so arrogant about like how good of a player he is. I can't tell you if you're a good player or not, but if you get cut this many times, I don't think you're a bad player. But can you really say that is all these different people, these scouts, these coaches, can you really say that? There's clearly something that needs to be worked on, right? He just really lacked introspection, in my opinion. Here's my take on the interview as a whole. I appreciated the fact that this man got on this podcast and was able to openly talk about being an undrafted NFL player because we know how the ego is, especially the male one. I appreciated his ability to be vulnerable and talk about his losses. I appreciated him being open about I wasn't picked. I wasn't good enough. I didn't, even though he didn't really say it in this way, I wasn't good enough and I had to constantly prove that I was. So now that I am here, I still have a little bit of that imposter syndrome of not feeling like I belong here. That I just thought that was really dope because men as a whole don't really like to talk about things like that. Just being vulnerable in general, especially talking about places, talking about failure is not easy for anyone. I remember being in high school, trying out for the cheerleading team, not making it. And then the second season, I was an alternate. A girl just happened to not be able to be on the team that year. She was a dancer. So, like, her dance schedule and the cheer schedule would clash. I ended up being able to get on the team, and I was on the team for the rest of my high school career. That was my freshman year. I didn't overlook before when I don't make the cheer team. I didn't make the cheer team in middle school. I didn't make it here, and I'm like, I should just give up on cheerleading, even though I had been doing it my entire life, and I love it, and I know that I'm good at it. But like, we can't overlook that there are people who may be better than us. And it's all about perception. It's not a real thing. Granted, there are some like stats that can like track that, but it's all about perception. So I got that and I appreciated that because imposter syndrome is something I've struggled with. It's why I have lacked in creating content the whole year as far as YouTube and the previous year because I really just lost myself and felt like this was not the space for me, even though it is 100% where I am supposed to be. I respected that and I appreciated that coming from a black man. I did. That is what I will say. Yeah, overall, I think when it came to him talking about himself, it was a good interview because he was very vulnerable and he was open and he gave praise to his mom. At the very least, you can respect your mother. He gave high praise to his mom for being a rock, and he gave a lot of praise to his NFL colleagues. Now, for the nitty gritty. When it comes to how he spoke of Simone, I feel like he severely lacked. He had so many opportunities to uplift his partner, to show admiration or love. It's just like he has so many opportunities to be like that romantic sweet boyfriend, husband, excuse me. And he just didn't do it. He didn't do it at all. Like the the greatest accolade she had the entire interview was that she was a great cook. Because one, that is something he mentioned unprovoked. Everything else was a question about her. If they would not have asked questions about her, it would be very unlikely that he mentioned her. And I am sure of it. And it's his interview, so I'm like, maybe I get it. But when you're a union, you're one, right? Isn't that what marriage is? And I believe in marriage, so I'm not mocking y'all. It's just like I was confused. I'm like, is this her husband or is this her boyfriend who she's been dating for like 8 months? Moments where Simone was mentioned, I just feel like he didn't show up for her. He didn't he didn't shine a good light on her. It would either be him talking about himself or he made her look stupid. He made her look desperate. And that viral clip, he made her look desperate and it didn't get any better throughout the interview. It didn't. It was like pulling teeth to get him to say something nice about his girlfriend. Wife. It's hard for me to contextualize that this is his wife because of the way he was speaking. He didn't degrade her. Like the interviewers spent more time giving Simone her credit. And I'm like, ew. It was not until he realized how much notoriety she had where he was like, oh, this is something. Her looks wasn't enough. Her pursuing him wasn't enough. I don't pursue men. I am the kind of person who is direct when I want something and I see it. I'm gonna be direct about it, but that's usually more on the solely physical aspect, and I don't even participate in that kind of shenanigans anymore. But back when I did, the only time when I was forward was when I was trying to like hook up with a guy. I've been with a guy like Jonathan Owens, so it wasn't even triggering. It was just like I could see it. Oh, he don't like her like that. Or he's jealous of her, or both. The guy I was dating was 100% attracted to me. He was, I want to say, infatuated with me. I don't think that's the proper word, but he was sold. He was sold on me and who I was because he can use the things that he thinks highly of me about and like brag to other people about that. Like, oh, my girl has this degree, or my girl is in school for this, and my girl does this. My girl has been here. Not that I've ever heard those conversations, because I haven't, but he's not going to be with someone who has nothing to show for themselves. And that could look like anything. It could be me having a business or whatever. But he was the kind of person, he's not going to be with someone who has nothing to show for themselves. But he also very, very seldom gave me compliments that were beyond my physical. He called me, he told me how much he loved how smart I was, like once, but he spent the majority of our relationship calling me stupid. That kind of situation. And I can't say that that is what Jonathan Owens is doing behind closed doors, because that's not what I'm trying to imply. I'm just saying I know a hater when I see one. I know a hater when I see one, because I've dated one. And it's very uncomfortable to date a guy who is insecure about where he is in life. Where you are in life is where he wants to be. That is a hell of a combination for a man. One that is insecure, one that has been constantly rejected, one that feels like he is much better than the predicaments that he has been put in. To be with a woman who is doing better than him, would not recommend to the lady, because that man is going to crush your self-esteem. Or at least he will try. Long story short, that man didn't give that woman no credit. He has an...
So this is where my mic decided to stop working again. Essentially, I think he has an inferiority complex, and Simone is topping him in so many different realms and avenues. It's hard to be with a woman like that when you're not secure with where you are. So, of course, your saving grace and or the thing that makes you look like the big guy is, oh, she chased me or she sought me because I am the catch. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with anyone thinking that they are a catch or a prize, whatever. Cool. Think highly of yourself as you're supposed to. But when you start calling yourself the catch and the prize, it gives superiority complex. And these are the receipts from his Twitter in 2012, where he was talking about Gabby Douglas because he went on that podcast and said he did not know anything about gymnastics. And he emphasized not knowing anything, even though we have tweets of you talking about the Olympics. So you knew who she was. Why are you lying? Sir, why are you lying? But yeah, he in an attempt to big up himself, he ended up making his wife look very small. I don't think he came on the podcast with the intent to quote unquote humble Simone, but he was trying to portray himself as bigger than he is, and the result of that was making her look really small. That was essentially the gist of whatever else I was saying. I don't remember what else I was talking about. The morning I woke up after this video, I was sick from 11 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night. I don't know if I got food poisoning. I don't know if I got the second wave of COVID. I don't really know what was going on. But thank you guys always for tuning in and watching. It means the world. Leave your comments, leave your takes, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, you guys.